This is Ravens Flock Talk Podcast, coming to you every week with their thoughts and opinions on each and every Ravens game. Tune in weekly and join the flock.
This is Ravens Flock Talk. I am your host, Brandon, and my co-host is my dad. And we are going to be tuning into you with our review of our Cleveland game, our second division rival game. And it was a great win. Great win. Kind of really not much you can say on the bad end of things, which is a good thing to say as a Ravens fan. First and foremost, though, on our last episode, just to go a little bit in depth on some of the comments we got from Domo Wiggly. He is a Colts fan, so it's great to see that not just Ravens fans tune in, but opposing fans as well. Yes, we are currently dealing with some technical issues with the mics, so we appreciate you pointing that out to us. But nevertheless, thank you for your kind comment. And Roog Pod saying tough stretch of games coming up that may decide the season for us. And I mentioned that to you, Dad. And we said that last episode after the Colts loss. We totally agree. You know, I was telling my dad it's kind of rare. I was surprised by that comment because a lot of Ravens fans are always positive. There's, if you're negative, you're not a fan, you're a Debbie Downer. But, he kept it as real as possible, just like we do, saying that, these next couple of games is going to decide a lot, especially with our division games coming up. So he hit it right on the head, and luckily right after that Colts game, it was a bounce-back game for us, and they pulled through.
Yeah, I agree. Appreciate the comments, yeah. So last week it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We knew this was a critical game, and what can you say? They came through. And we'll get into it, but much better attitude this week with a win, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, like I said last week, not every loss is a bad loss. How are you going to respond to basically a loss where it went out of the grasp of your hands? Granted, there was a bad call at the end of the game, but how are you going to respond with a big Cleveland game? And we got a break, let's say, with Watson being out, so this had to be a win. You can't afford to lose to a backup quarterback, especially after that Colts loss. So
yeah, and let's face it, we were very emotional last week because we could have won, and it was an important, pivotal game that we should have won. And now we're going into a division game with
another one,
at risk, but
another one.
And result was good.
Yeah, I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, I liked everything really. Granted, they run the ball to get down the field with Gus, pounding away, and then it's Lamar in the red zone. Me and you called it. They not only did it once, but twice. Predictability, and hey, it's who they are, but I understand Lamar's a threat. I would like to see, though, Gus carrying the workload for him to finish off the job. That would be nice to see. But nevertheless, I mean, he had a career day. 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 throwing touchdowns. I mean, if you had him on your fantasy team, you were very happy. But, hey, I mean, he's our star guy. I get they want him to make the plays, and he had some incredible plays. Those runs were nice. The Andrews throw was, I mean, I was pumped up after that because I was mainly surprised. I mean, in that tight window, I would have been very mad because just before halftime, you get right there and you turn the ball over. You don't come away with any points. But that was kind of the nail in the coffin, I think.
Yeah, I think a little differently. I think the defense is what held this game up. Of course, the offense did their thing. I think they could have got a lot more points. I think they left a lot of points on the scoreboard. But the defense, when I think about it in hindsight, they get a field goal. Cleveland gets a field goal, and then we hold them through the entire game to a field goal. It's the defense that gets the game ball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. That was just a little synopsis of it. But,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, was there much of a change with this offense with Odell and Bateman being out? I personally wasn't really even worried about it because it's not like those two guys, especially with Bateman having the history here, has had a handful of games that we've had. It's not like, oh man, Tyreek Hill is out, or whoever's most valuable, AJ Brown for the Eagles.
So what's the common theme of those two receivers? What's the common theme? They can't stay on the field.
We know that, but I'm just saying, to not point out the obvious, is that there's not much change in the offense. Yeah. I mean, they're not meant really impact players. Yeah. It's Andrews and Zay are 1 and 2. Yeah. And it's nice. I mean, they're good complementary pieces when they're out there. But I mean, let's just call it like it is.
I'm critical of the receivers. However, I look at the other teams across the league, and they usually only have 2 to 3 receivers usually 2 that can change the game, right? Yeah. That are game changers. So, it's who we are. But with all these weapons, I thought we could spread the ball around, Brandon, and be more of an offensive threat instead of like Kansas City. With Kelsey, I mean, what else does he really have? And so you look across the league, even with Buffalo, 1 or 2 receivers or 1 receiver, and that's how they win their games. Now we have a dynamic quarterback that can run and pass. That is our advantage.
Yeah, and that's what Todd is going to pound away each and every week. It's not just in football, though. You see this with other sports. Is the role players, they might have a game or two, a breakout game, but it's not sustainable over a season. Nelson Aguilar had his breakout game against Cincinnati.
I just don't understand.
Where has he been since? But he's never been that type of receiver. He's never been that type of receiver, and they're not going to make plays for him.
They're not going to target.
He's not a Hopkins where they're going to say, we got to get this guy the ball. But if he's open and he's available, cool. But he's just not a star player. He's a role player.
But what kills me is these receivers that have the ability to get open, Brandon. And, it's route running to me. Because Andrews and Kelsey are always open, it seems like. These guys like Aguilar, why can't they they're supposedly premier route runners. Why can't they sustain
I wouldn't say premier.
Well,
He's just always been a mid-level, mediocre guy.
Well, in our case, on the Ravens team, it is premier because our receivers can't seem to get open. But anyway, I will say this, that I would love to see Todd Monken spread the ball around more if he can, but it's up to the receivers to get open as Lamar scrambles around. He seems like the only option is Andrews.
Well,
and Zay.
Unless you're breaking down film, you can only see what they show on the screen. We never see what's going on downfield until that ball ends up in the receiver's hand.
So you have to assume that these receivers aren't
you
getting
never
open.
know. But, I mean, I'm not going to pound the table about Nelson Aguilar or Duvernay or whoever, because they've never been that type of guy, and I don't expect them to. It's if I can get a game like that with Aguilar in Cincinnati, I'm happy. Right. But let's just face it, 4 games in, it's going to be Andrews, as always. It's going to be Zay Flowers and Lamar's Lamar's legs. If Bateman can come in and Odell, please. I mean, that would make us more of a threat, but my expectations now in terms of spreading it around are over now, 4 games in, because I see what they're going to do. And before the season, I didn't know. It's the possibility.
The reason why your expectations are down is because they can't stay on the field.
But even when they're on the field, Odell hasn't been highly targeted. Aguilar's only been...
Well, you can't really tell. He's only been on the field for 2 games.
But I'm not gonna say I can tell. It's my prediction. Yeah. It's my prediction. Right. Me personally, I just don't see Odell being a heavy asset because he's just not the same player. And so I'm looking for him, instead of being that number 1 guy like I thought he was going to be, is that number 2 or possibly number 3 guy with a critical
switching
with Rashad, but Zay Flowers has to be the number 1 guy. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. Really, Andrew is our number 1 guy, and then Zay. But, I mean, I was happy with the offense. The running game was great. Melvin Gordon had a big run. Justice Hill had some big runs, and we've been critical of him. But, I mean, listen, out of all the quarterbacks in our division, I wouldn't rather have anybody but Lamar. All of them are hurt, ironically, which is the ironic part of it. So he's our guy, and we're gonna roll with him. And the thing is he wins 70% of his games, and when he's on the field, you always have a shot. And
really, we'll get back to the Ravens' way of playing, which is running, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the option to pass. In that second quarter, man, that running game was on fire, man. After they got, they started out the gate really well, 7-0. Whenever they start out the gate, Brandon, it seems like the game has a different flow to it. And they kept them to a field goal. And then in the second quarter, our running game was on fire, man. We talked, like you said, Hill, Gordon, and Gus brought it down the field. And, of course, Lamar, I see Todd within the 10-yard line is always going to be his option is Lamar. Not always, but a lot is going to be a Lamar instead of just pounding it into the end zone with Gus, which I would prefer. But, with such a dynamic quarterback in Lamar's case, he wants the ball in his hands, right?
He's as our opposing fans would say in our division, he's just a running back. So he's our fourth running back,
Yeah,
really second string or first string running back if you really want to.
But you got to think about the secondary when you're inside the 10. You don't know which play they're going to call.
And that's
right?
the mentality that Todd's going to go with. And that's what Greg went with, but he would always give it to Lamar.
Like on 3 downs. So.
Yeah, and if our magical year when we went 14-2, you didn't know exactly who was going to get it because we had those 2 running backs on either side of him faking handoff, who has the ball, who doesn't. I would like to see that more. But, what I'm hoping is these running backs stay healthy because, as you said, this running game is going to be a backbone of this offense back to old school Ravens football. So can guys like Melvin Gordon, even though he's going to get limited touches, make an impact? Can Justice Hill stay healthy? Because even though I'm not a big proponent of him, and neither are you, I do like the speed he brings that Gus lacks.
Yeah.
So it's a good complementary piece now that Dobbins is out.
It's like Dobbins and Gus. It was that 1-2 punch, right? So, yeah, and I also look at we got lucky with the Browns having a lot of penalties in critical situations. So that really helped us out.
We had a lot as well, but
in critical situations, the Browns seemed to shoot themselves in the foot. We had that Justice Hill. But it wasn't his fault. It was Lamar with a handoff to him in the second quarter.
Another
that really
fumble by Lamar, but it didn't hurt us.
But I call it Brandon sloppy. Like last week, he had so many sloppy plays in terms of passing, fumbling. Now it's a handoff again. Not putting it into Hill's chest and just like throwing it to him, and that is unacceptable when we start playing in our divisions.
And we were on the brink of scoring. I believe we would have scored a touchdown that drive, and I said to you in that moment, "Is this going to determine whether we go downhill or not?" And maybe if Watson played, it might have. It might have. I
mean, you gotta. We're so critical at times. I know the fans think we may be critical, but in those critical situations, the score could have been so much better on the offense, and the defense kept us in this game, period.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on to the defensive side, it helped us the fact that this was this kid's first game, and it was rough. We got 3 picks. We finally got a lot of turnovers.
Patrick Queen got a sack.
I mean, Patrick Queen and Roquan they're just going to be all over the field all season long. Kyle Hamilton as well, 5 interceptions. He did get a gimme pick at the end, his first interception, so he finally got one. But this defense overall is looking good. It's looking good, and, I'm happy we're in this position with our injuries because when guys come back, it's just going to make this team even better. But the thing is like, now our guys, and I said this prior years with games we were involved in, is these backups now have the experience, these game playing experience, rather than just sitting on the bench all year long, and then an injury to your star player hurts, and they got no prior experience, and they're just,
That's a good point. I never thought of it like
guys
that.
like
with
Geno
the
Stone
injuries.
getting 2 picks now.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? I mean, he might have not even gotten that opportunity had Marcus Williams not get hurt. So now you got confidence in your second and third string guys. That just is going to build a camaraderie, helps the team get better in the long run. Where if a guy goes down, yeah, it's going to suck, but you're not kind of panicking.
No, look, how about Van Noy coming in first game after 1 week, and he was a difference maker, man. He had a block pass. It was just good to see him out there. That's going to be a compliment now. When we get our guys back. That could be really a good thing.
I love that signing. I totally forgot.
Know.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was, any guy that comes from New England, even though I think the last team he played for was Miami, but he played in New England for a while. I mean, they're just smart players. Now, New England's not the New England of old, but, I mean, he is a veteran guy that knows championship football, knows good teams. And, I mean, I prefer him over Ajabo. I mean, as you know, I was never a proponent of Ajabo coming out of the draft because why? With our injury history, we get a guy who's injured and we're never going to see until whenever we saw him.
I just hope he's not going to become a Stanley, okay? Because I'm through with Stanley. Hey, on this podcast, I'm going to go on record. I cannot take Stanley anymore. This guy cannot stay on the field. I don't care how good he is. He can't stay on the field. And he's not a valuable asset to the Ravens anymore. So you got to start getting either drafting better players for the left side of the line, the blind side, or trading him but they paid him all this money and they're stuck with him. So
well, the thing is I mean, the draft is a gamble. So that's just the
I'd
way
rather
it
see a
is.
young player than him. He can't stay on the field.
I understand, and I mean, I don't know with the contract and all that stuff. Who knows if they might draft? Honestly, we're not even thinking about that.
We were so happy last year that he managed to get 7-8 games. That was like a monumental feat for him. But anyway,
he's definitely a liability.
Man,
he doesn't show up when you need him. Will he play against Pittsburgh? I don't know. And I have no idea. But you would like to see him with a big division game against Cleveland. He would be lining up against Myles Garrett.
At least try to get in there on these division games that we have coming up with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. At least try, Stanley, and then sit out. But at least play, 3, 4, 5 plays and more. He doesn't appear like he wants to play. I don't get it. But anyway, enough of him because I'm sick of him. I will say Duvernay was another disappointment to me in this game. Now, he has his moments of flashing. But to me, when on punt returns and kickoff returns, he doesn't seem to have the speed and the burst that I like to see from somebody like him. I mean, as a receiver, he'll have that second gear and a burst, but this game, he just seems so slow, and he doesn't make good decisions on punt returns. He had space ahead of him. He fair catches. If he does catch the ball with room, it seems like he's so slow, Brandon. I don't know. What are your feelings?
I mean, I know special teams is like your big thing. I would have liked to see him. It was a moment when they had him backed up, and he had more than enough room, 15 or so yards before the guy was even in the vicinity of him to take that back. We saw that last week with Zay Flowers. Fair catching after we got the safety. So I don't know. But yeah, he does not seem as fast. But who else would you put back there that you wouldn't want to get hurt? I mean, I don't want anybody to get hurt. But if Duvernay gets hurt, is it going to hurt us that much?
I wish we could find a jewel. I just wish we could find
I don't want Nelson Aguilar back
an undrafted
there.
rookie or somebody with good hands and with speed that could do something in that role. That's all I'm thinking of because in the past, you always
they get limited opportunities to make an impact on a play because it's either they're fair catching it because the punt is just that high, or they don't get the opportunity to return.
That's what I would love on a practice squad is some rookie that we found that has speed and has hands.
But
That
what
could,
I'm telling you is I don't think it would matter all that much because you only get 1 or 2 chances
Do-
on a
I-
punt return
but
to make an impact.
True, because the rules have changed from the past. But I remember, back 5-6 years ago when the rule wasn't like it is now. That was a very impactful time in the game that you could get a punt return with a speedster on that could do damage, right? But I guess you're right. Is the game has changed so much that
What rule are you referring to?
where first of all, the kickoff returns. It's look, you don't have hardly any kickoff returns anymore
that's
because
irrelevant now. So it's not even a
factor.
factor.
I know, but punt returns are a factor. So I would focus on the punt returns versus kickoff returns. If you have somebody that's dynamic, it could really change the field position. And I'm not saying score a touchdown, but change the field position. So hey, you have opportunities on punt returns, and you have to make the best of it, right? So
yeah, I mean, I don't see them making a change to.
No, Duvernay, they're not. I'm just
not.
saying to me, for some reason, he looks so slow. It's like unbelievable because he's not slow. And as a receiver, I know he has that second gear. So hey,
I would say
it
though,
is what it is.
I would say though, looking at the other teams in our division, when you look at especially the offensive side, we have the best offense in this division amidst our injuries. Cleveland, even with Watson, I mean, that Pittsburgh game was just so ugly. I just, even if Watson was playing, I'm not like too scared of Amari Cooper or Njoku or even Watson's legs with the speed that we have at linebacker. Yeah. Pittsburgh, I mean, they want their offensive coordinator fired. They're chanting "Fire Canada" 2 weeks ago. And Cincinnati, Joe Burrow just doesn't look the same. Is it the calf? I don't know. Jamar Chase is now basically throwing his quarterback to the wolves, saying I'm always open. So that's never a good sign when your prima donna wideout is acting up. So, I mean, offensively, I would take this offense over any team in our division, and defense because of the injuries that we have out in the plays. I mean, we might not be getting too many sacks, but we're getting much more pressure.
Yeah.
Which is affecting the play.
I'm feeling good in our division now. You just don't know. We're only the 4th game in, but looking at them across the league playing other teams, I'm feeling pretty good. If we can stay healthy, and that's what's been the problem around the league. Is people can't stay healthy, and it changes the whole complexion of the game.
Aside from injuries, you win this Pittsburgh game, you're not playing another division game until the end of the season.
Right.
Because all of them were, and they were all away.
All away.
So now they're coming home to the bank, and we're sitting good. So you win this game, you're looking pretty good. You're 3-0 in the division early in the season. Yeah.
If you can stay healthy, then you're sitting good. And Patrick Mahomes last night was talking about that. He's like, okay, a win is a win. He squeaked out on a win. And so, he knows how valuable that is. And then if your team peaks at the end of the season, then it's golden. And that's what he's always done for these last couple years, 3 years. That Kansas City Chiefs team has always peaked at the end. They had struggles in the beginning. They peaked at the end. Yep. And everybody stayed healthy. Not everybody, but most of them stayed healthy. I'm thinking the same for the Ravens. This is supposedly like a kind of a, quote, magical year, like the Orioles' magical year. This could be it because we have all the players that we need to have to make a run, okay? It's just executing now and making that run and making teams pay, making it pay on these teams that are not elite.
It's just about
winning.
Using your not core, but who you have in the best ability possible, and the key thing is with the quarterback is you'll see a quarterback not flourish with a coordinator, and then they fire that guy, another guy comes in, and he's a whole different player, and you're going, oh my gosh, you look at Tua when he I'm forgetting the coach's name, but he was a defensive coach. Now you look at him with McDaniel, he utilized what he's good at and had the surrounding pieces for him. So if we can continue to do that for these guys, another example is not just a coach, but sometimes a player, and we said this in previous episodes, is how much better Patrick Queen has gotten since Roquan came.
It's so wild. I was thinking the same thing, Brandon. I was just looking at some of my notes, looking at how good Queen played, and the whole reason that Hamilton and Queen are doing so much better is because of Roquan. Okay, he has elevated various players around him by eliminating decisions they have to make, because he calls the plays and knows what's going on every down.
Teams have identities and organizations have identities, and us was always, since our beginning of time, having a solid piece in the middle of that defense in Ray Lewis, and we were missing that for years when we had Mosley and then Queen and Harrison weren't those sort of leaders that needed to fill that role, and then Roquan came in. Pittsburgh's always had a tough defense, good linebackers since the 80s, good pass rushers, James Harrison, TJ Watt. They've always had Casey Hampton, Palomalu. So you kind of fall back on the success you had in the past, and that Roquan signing was just tremendous.
Oh my God, 100%.
He's the voice. We were missing that voice too on defense, and we needed that leader. Because me and you used to say in the beginning years of the podcast, who's the leader on the defense? Who's going to talk to these guys? Who's going to get them going? Because we just had a bunch of guys. Now we have a centerpiece. We have a nucleus, and we can surround him. And, he's vocal. I see him all mic'd up and stuff, and he's literally like Ray Lewis 2.0. Not saying he's as good as him, but in terms of his leadership, he's learning, And I saw this clip of him and Ray and Roquan was saying, I'm learning to be more vocal, talking to Ray.
And he has that passion, and he has that it factor where he doesn't back down from any man or anything. And the other thing we had with Ray, speaking of him, was Ed Reed in the back end. So, those two combinations on defense held up that defense, right? And they were vocal, and you could always count on them to change the game, right? Yeah. So now we have one piece. We need the secondary somebody to step up in that role, because so far they've been band-aiding the secondary, and it's been effective.
But hey,
they've been doing a good job.
They got 3 interceptions.
They've been doing a good job.
Geno Stone had that big one in Cincinnati. Just this game alone, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, only 3 points allowed, and 10 tackles for a loss.
Right, but I think isn't Geno? I think he's hurt again. He's hurt. I think he got
Geno
injured.
Stone?
I think he got pectoral injury or shoulder, something like that. But anyway, everybody steps in, and like you said, we don't have the Ray Lewis second person in the secondary like an Ed, but they're all working as a team, and I love to see it. So great win.
It's next man up. It's the next man up mentality, and coaches and players know that going into the season. But it's gonna be interesting when Williams is back and Humphrey, and so we'll see. But I'm feeling good. I love the position we're in,
and thank goodness we have depth, in a lot of these positions. That's when we went into the season, they said how much depth we had in almost every segment of the game. Yeah, and now it's proving to be so valuable right now.
And one thing I want to address, too, seeing online Cleveland fans going, being sarcastic, congrats, you beat a backup quarterback and you guys are boasting and whatnot. But in the preseason, Cleveland, weren't you the ones that were raving about this backup quarterback and how you love him and he's the next big thing and this and that after you already signed Watson? So you were raving about this guy. I'm thinking, he must be the real deal. Right. So you can't get on us for celebrating. It's like we said, it's the next man up.
How do they feel when we last year?
What I was going to say, it's the next man up, and there's no excuses. We almost won a playoff game with our backup quarterback last year. So we're used to injuries.
And look how far we went.
Exactly.
And we played them without Lamar. We played you, Cleveland, without Lamar, so stop that nonsense.
Deshaun Watson getting hurt was out of our control, not our fault and whatnot. I mean, if you guys beat us with a backup, you know what you'll be saying? Oh, we beat you with a backup quarterback. You guys aren't any good.
Right.
So you can't play that victim role just because your star quarterback got hurt.
And last year we played 3/4 of the season without our franchise quarterback. So don't talk Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Don't talk about that.
I don't like those fans that determine what they're going to say, on the outcome. State what you're going to say in your mind before the game and after the game. No excuses before the game. If we lose, we lose. It's the next man up. This is football. Injuries are going to happen, and they might happen to your quarterback. You just got to deal with it.
And it's happened to the Ravens. And so, if anything, you should have sympathy for us because we went 2 years without Lamar.
And with the history,
so stop that.
And with the history and the hate in this division and how much we hate opposing teams, you got to be prepared for the opposing fans to talk crap. I mean, we're going to boast. That's just how it is. So I just wanted to address that because I kept seeing that on, Cleveland fans getting on Ravens fans just because we beat our backup. I mean, Pittsburgh fans are going to say the same thing next week because Pickett's out. I mean, hey, sorry, but we got to take advantage of the situation, and so be it. Their issue is their issue. Well, I'm not worried about that. Go out and win the game.
This is NFL. Cleveland asked the Jets how they feel right now. This is the NFL, so cut it out.
I mean, me and my dad are not saying after the playoff game last year, we had a backup quarterback. No, we were saying Huntley should have never have dove across that. They should have handed the ball off.
One play away from going to the playoffs.
We weren't making excuses because Huntley was playing. Yeah. We were in that game. There's no excuse.
And we should have won that game. It feels like almost the Colts game, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But going forward, next week in Pittsburgh, another away game. If we can get another win, that's gonna be great. I doubt Pickett's gonna play. One thing I will say that I'll keep a close eye on, and probably you will as well, because you mentioned it, is are we gonna protect the middle of the field? Because Pittsburgh, I mean, they love that middle of the field, or even with Ben, the most I've seen them throw outside was those bombs to Antonio Brown back in the day. So can we protect the middle of the field? The only weapon I'm scared of is this George Pickens. Can we contain him? Because if you contain him, I don't think they have much of an offense. No way they're going to run on us with Najee Harris. So
I'll say this.
I think you eliminate Pickens, you got a good chance to win the game.
I hope we learn from the Cleveland game that with this defense, I hope Lamar and the coaching staff has learned you got to get the ball out of this guy's hands quick. You got T.J. Watt on the edge. Yeah. So that was the key, and since we were so successful with Cleveland, I hope they continue it with Pittsburgh because they have the same defense, if not better. So that's why I'm feeling somewhat good, Brandon, because we should learn from that. We should learn what plays we should call for Lamar to keep him out of trouble because guess what? He's still not throwing the ball away. He's still doing his thing, which is never going to stop, where he thinks he can extend plays when he can't. But hey, we were successful with it. I'm happy. This is a whole different tone this week after a win and how they dominated on defense. I'm feeling good.
With Lamar holding the ball too long at times and stuff, I don't hate it as much as if it was like Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill. Do I want to see it every time? No. But occasionally, he's going to have to do that, and I'm okay with it because he has the ability to make something out of nothing.
As long as it's not third down and short and in field goal range, and then it takes you out of field goal range. That's the decision. Dad,
not every game is going to be...
But that's okay. All right.
Everyone listening, he wants a perfect game every week.
I don't want a perfect game.
I have to tell him.
I want a quarterback that's franchised like him to be smart, okay? And know the situation. Okay, you got the best kicker in the league, and throw it away, and don't.
Enough with the kicker. It's all about getting touchdowns.
No, I'm saying in that situation, if you don't have it, throw it away so that you don't put your kicker, the best kicker in the league, in a 65-yard field goal.
Luckily, we didn't have any of that situation with Cleveland. I doubt we'll even have it with Pittsburgh. Who knows?
Who knows? But listen, they just did a stat on TV today. As you well know, the last 4 years, the last 27 games that we played has been within 3. And I don't see anything different, backup quarterback or not, because that's how we always play with Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's our history.
Another thing, too, I think that correlates from this game to next week is both defenses have a premier top 5 pass rusher. And I was saying during the Cleveland game is, of course, our premier guy, Stanley, is out. So you have a backup in, and
Was it McCarr?
it's Makari. I don't even know if that's his
natural
position or not. But what I was saying during the game is have a running back on that left side of Lamar and temporarily help out that left tackle with Myles Garrett, and then you can break off for a dump off if need be. But have someone there as a secondary option once he gets by. And I kept seeing Garrett beat him time and time again. How he didn't get like 10 sacks this game, I have no idea. But I see this. I was gonna say is why not do that again against Pittsburgh? Have a running back there just as a safety valve, just as a safety net.
So I apologize. What I saw on the Ravens site, we just secured a tight end that we used to have. I can't remember his name, and he's a blocking tight end. So that is made to your point. I think that's the reason why they got him. They signed him. It escapes me his name right now, but he was with the Ravens. He's a veteran tight end, and he's a blocking tight end. So, hey, hopefully that's right to your point that they know they need that.
I just feel like you just got to get multiple bodies on these guys. You cannot leave them in single coverage. Aaron Donald gets double teamed every game. So with Watt and Garrett in our own division, you can't rely on a backup guy to hold him the entire game. You gotta put a running back on him, put a tight end on him, for a temporary time, just to give Lamar that extra couple seconds, because that's going to be crucial.
Or on the offensive side, do the quick screen passes, quick passes, get it out of his hands while they're rushing you.
Because I see T.J. Watt making too many impact plays.
He's licking his chops right now.
He's either knocking it down, he's picking the ball off, he's getting a fumble, he's picking up the fumble. I mean, he's just always at the right place at the right time.
And this is where Duvernay and Zay Flowers can be real critical with these swing passes and get them in open space and let them do their thing.
Bump Duvernay. I got to disagree with you.
Well, I mean, Duvernay's fast.
But he's going to get 2 catches or catch a game, and that's going to be it.
No, I'm saying that's all we need sometimes in critical situations to get the first down.
It's going to be get it to your star players. I don't want to see Andrews invisible this game.
No, I'm not saying
get
that.
it to your star guys.
I'm saying just get it out quick.
They're going to determine whether we win or lose. So, and of course Lamar, but feeling good, 3-1, top of the division, top of the conference. I mean, just think, you win that Colts game, you're the only undefeated team in the AFC.
Right.
That would be so nice.
No, in the AFC.
In the AFC.
Yeah, because it's 4-0 with Philly, right? 4-0.
Yeah, but they're
I'm saying
in the opposite conference. So.
NFC, so.
But hey, I mean, I'm actually glad to get the loss out. We learned from it seemed like, and let's build on this momentum. Pittsburgh rivalry week, man. It's always exciting. I don't care if Pickett's hurt. It's just nothing like playing Pittsburgh. It's nothing like it. It's Ohio State, Michigan. It's Duke, North Carolina, Ravens, Pittsburgh.
Todd Monken, don't be conservative. Don't be conservative. This is Pittsburgh. Air it out. Get Zay Flowers on a fly pattern and air it out for pass interference or something. But don't be conservative with Pittsburgh. We don't have to just win by 3 or lose by 3.
Yeah,
that's and we just don't know how to play Pittsburgh. And I said that last week, and it's going to be this week coming up.
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely learn from their losses. I mean, Houston lit them up last week, so we can do the same, and we beat Houston. So
Lamar, call up Peyton Manning or Tom Brady and ask them, how the hell do you beat Pittsburgh by 30 points? Ask them, because that's how every other team outside our division plays Pittsburgh. They kill them. And we can't seem to do it.
Yeah, but nevertheless, appreciate anybody that has tuned in. Appreciate the comments as well. We always love getting comments. I know we're a small channel, so it's always nice to see those comments. briefly reply to it in the comments and then expand on it in the next video. So comment and, tune in the following week, and we guarantee you that we will respond to your comment, mention your name as well in the next episode. So, yes, rivalry week, Pittsburgh, nothing like it. Ravens fans, cross our fingers that we can build on this momentum, and please tune in next week.